So welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm Chance Van Lanningham, and today we are talking to Brad Smith, the founder of Empower Financial Group. Brad, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep. If you missed episode 1, we talked to Brad about how he got started in the insurance industry, and we briefly covered recruitment. We didn't really go too much into depth, but we talked about it a little bit. And one of the questions I had, and I'm sure a lot of other people have, is how do you find people, for one, and then how do you find people with the right qualities that you want to be agents that represent not only you but Empower Financial?
Well, this is kind of a loaded question, but could get off on many different branches. But I always say, with just dealing with individuals, it's usually I don't find people.
Mm-hmm.
People usually find me through what they see that we do, the lifestyle that we live. I believe, as I mentioned probably in the last episode, was you lead from the front. You put your boots on. You go to work every day. You go work. You're working in the trenches, getting your teeth kicked in, just like your agents are. And when you're doing that, people see you doing that. Then they want to. A lot of people want to come work with you. So that's one aspect. But really, if you're just out recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
looking for people that don't know anything about you, and you just want to grow numbers of people, there's a lot of groups, a lot of companies, a lot of carriers out there. That one duck company.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They'll throw anything at the wall and hope it sticks, right?
Absolutely.
They'll hire 10 people in a town of 800 if they could. The hell, they'd hire 50 people in a town
Mm-hmm.
of 800 if they could. That's mass recruiting. I don't like mass recruiting.
So you're trying to find like quality, and they're trying to go for quantity.
Right. They want quantity. I want quality. I'd rather
Mm-hmm.
find a more of a quality person, somebody that has a educated background. Somebody. I'm not saying I wouldn't want to recruit somebody that was a construction worker last week, but I want somebody first and foremost that has a good work ethic, that
Absolutely.
doesn't have a preconceived notion that they think they know everything, right? So self-motivated is probably going to be the key thing that I'm looking for. Somebody that doesn't take advantage of flexibility, that wants to get up, go to work, have a plan every day, understands time management. And because I tell people, I said, in this business, if you work 40 hours a week in this business, just like you would at a factory or a 40-hour work week job, and you dedicate the same amount of time and effort, you're going to make 4 times the amount of money that you do in an hourly job or a salary job where you're working for the man. Okay.
Absolutely.
When you start recruiting is a broad word, because in our particular business and how we do things, we recruit through partnerships, through other brokers that don't do what we do, because I feel like we're the best in America in what we do, by focusing on being really good at what our specialty is. But we don't branch off into a lot of other things. So we don't mess with health insurance. We don't mess with property and casualty. Those things, we like to work with those guys and recruit them on by creating them a stream of income to use their network. So then they funnel their clients to us, because we're bringing value to them and their clients when we meet with them. Then not just brokers, but chambers of commerce, payroll companies, CPAs, a lot of financial people. So that's another key ingredient in just even the individual recruiting approach. Is somebody right now, if I was recruiting somebody today and I put an ad out, it would be somebody that's got a financial background, that understands payroll taxes, that understands a little bit about IRS tax code, right?
Absolutely.
Because anymore what we do, it's more about educating than selling. So it's easier to recruit somebody when all they've got to do is educate about a program. But when you're trying to teach, there's a lot of sales characteristics that are just not teachable, like getting up and putting your boots on, or name dropping and knowing how to really connect dots of people from certain areas, or who's so-and-so's friend and runs in certain circles and certain networks.
Absolutely.
Those are things that are not teachable. But you can teach people that you recruit a duplicatable process, and it's easier to do that on an education scale than it is on a sales scale.
Absolutely. So, I've heard you say, I don't know what the exact saying is, but you have agents from like Connecticut to California or something like that.
Yeah.
So how do you get people from all over? Like, how do people find you like that? I know you said something about like, you know, people find you and it's like about connections.
Right.
But how do you get these connections in all these different states?
Well, two things. The old hillbilly style is a referral approach, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm talking to somebody and so says, hey, I've got this nephew, or hey, I've got this brother that's a broker, et cetera, et cetera. So, those lead to phone calls and meetings for all over the place, because just like you, you're not really truly from Missouri. You're from Texas. Your family is. So
Yep.
I would be able to connect with somebody in Texas. I think you got an aunt that's an HR in Texas.
I do, yeah.
Well, that would be, so those dots connect. But then we have what we're doing right now. It's probably going to end up on this thing called social media.
Yeah.
So, we post other times. I've got, I like to call this two dudes and a hillbilly, right?
Yeah.
There's another dude here in the room that's just listening in. But the reality of that is we used to put things, this other dude used to put things on social media for me. Yeah, hey, we're just having fun here. This is real. That's why it's called Two Dudes and a Hillbilly, man.
Nice.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So the stuff that we posted before, I would literally get people messaging me and me like, hey, what do you do? I really want to, I'm looking for something new in life. I want to learn how to do what you do, or how can I be a part of that? So, that's social media, but it's really just showing the real things, what I want to do different than what anybody else is doing out in the world. I just want to be real. I don't want to go take pictures in front of Lamborghinis and big jets and stuff that I just walked up to. I want to show them our lifestyle, what's really real, and I believe that people want to come work with and be a part of that.
Absolutely. So like how did you because obviously when you first started, you were just focused on selling. But how did you like go about recruiting your first agent?
My very, very first agent in this business that I recruited was somebody, a female that I would see her at ball games. I would see her out and about. I would see her talking, how she interacted socially, right? And everybody she ran into, she knew, or she connect dots with and would talk to. And obviously in sales, if I go back 25 years ago, whenever I would host interviews for selling knives back in the day, it was group interviews. You want to see how people interact with each other, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the key to that. That's how I went about recruiting her. I seen her. It was what we call that as a warm person, somebody we know, a relationship, recruiting based on relationships, and I convinced her to come work with us, and she had a phenomenal first year in this business.
Awesome. Wow. All right, so you've mentioned using like social media as a recruitment tool, but how do you go about using social media to recruit these new agents?
Well, again, most people are going to be, let's just think, and this is on deep dive for a minute, but just in sales. First of all, we started as a sales organization.
Absolutely.
Secondly, we also have recruiting built into that. And over time, there's a transition from sales to recruiting, from building, to speaking from my standpoint. But everybody, one of the common themes is everybody always like, man, where are you from? That voice, where's it from? And I'm like, well, I'm just a hillbilly from Carter County, right?
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like why I said two dudes and a hillbilly a while ago, right? So we're gonna recruit. If we start thinking about the hillbilly mentality, I'm like a Renaissance man. I just need a stone and a chisel. Yep. I really don't need a computer, right? I need dudes like you that know about a computer, okay? But in the sales cycle, I'd always say, hey, they would always say, hey, man, I want a cancer policy, or they would call me and ask me about a cancer policy after it was too late, and they would have said, oh, I should have talked to that hillbilly sounding guy while he was in here. But then they thought about it, it's too late now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about recruiting. From a hillbilly standpoint, there's all these things. Like I'm on LinkedIn, right?
Yep.
I'm about as dangerous on LinkedIn as I am with trying to give some one-liners to my wife to get her attention, right?
Yeah.
So we got LinkedIn, there's Indeed, there's ZipRecruiter, all these different platforms that I couldn't even tell you how to log into the things.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't know where to begin. They love customers like me on there because they're just collecting my money every day. I pay for this other marketing platform right now. I think like $297 a month. They love guys like Brad. That's what they want to work off. They want to work off a numbers game. What I want to do is I want to create a model that's not part of a numbers game, right? I don't want to just take people's money and say, hey, get into this funnel, get into this deal, and then never really provide them what they need to truly grow. So when you think about that, two dudes and a hillbilly, right?
Yeah.
We make real videos as to what I'm doing on a daily basis. We actually perform. We actually put up good numbers with carriers. We actually write true policies. We actually have testimonial videos from people that we've dealt with in businesses. And what that starts to do is then one agent calls and says, hey, I really don't know how to talk to this big of a group, but I've got 15 agents. Are you okay with taking them on? And then I have a carrier that calls me and says, hey, I've got this broker that really needs to understand how to do what you do. Would you be interested in talking to them? Well, of course, So just through partnerships like that, through carriers that we're already producing with, through other agents, other brokers, just in the last few months, we've literally taken on about between 40 and 50 new agents. And that's why we have events every year. We used to do things like in Tulsa and New Orleans and things like that. But really what I'm going to start focusing on is we have an event coming up in Atlanta.
Yep.
Where a big piece of that event is for all of our agents. We're going to give them some deep dives and a lot of things that we've talked about on this call. But more importantly, we want them to invite people that they think would like to work with us or are kind of teetering on like wanting to do something different in their life. So what that starts to do is when you get synergy and when you bring new people in that's not doing what we're doing and they start talking to people that we're doing and hearing about successes, hearing about trips we go on, hearing about cash bonuses, etc. Those things all make recruiting really, really easy, and there's nothing fake about it. It's all real stuff. So that's what you get when you deal with a hillbilly instead of all that click funnels and hey, get me your credit card. They'll sell you the fanciest plan in America and tell you that they're going to get you 1,000 people in the first year of recruits. That's there's so many smoke and mirrors and blowing smoke that I don't want to be a part of that. I want to do it just the real way.
So how do you, after you like find these people, how do you educate them on what we're doing? Like, what's the next step after you meet the people and you kind of, realize, hey, this guy would be a pretty good insurance agent. Where do you go from there? Like, what's the process like?
I'm glad you said that. I think that the best part of this is when I get a new recruit, a lot of people want to start talking about money. They want to start talking about all the glitz and the glamour and what could be, right? Really what I do with all recruits is I treat them just like they're a client. The very first thing I do is I demo them on our product. I present our actual product and what it does just as if they were a client, because a lot of times a recruit, somebody who's thinking about doing this, if they love our product so much that they would buy it themselves and protect their family with it, or they're a business owner and they see the value of the tax savings that we can create for them, all of a sudden they become invested in that product, right? They become invested in that problem-solving solution that we have.
Absolutely.
So then it makes them, that's probably the first step to it, right? The next step is then, yes, we're gonna create the duplicatable system for them, the scripts, the demos. Come work with us or other agents, some of our leaders for a day or two. So I think that's the bigger part. Instead of like going to some sales school, we're gonna have meetings every few times a year. Try to hop on Zoom calls just to reiterate the basis of what we do. There's an old song out there that says, "Hey, let's get back to the basics of life." Even in sales and recruiting, sometimes we just got to dial back in to ground zero. And focus on the basics, just like basketball players. Every now and then they're off on a three-pointer and they got to go back to shooting a layup. and shooting a free throw to kind of get things back in alignment. And I really think that that's what we do after somebody comes on board, and that's why a lot of people want that. A big piece of our recruiting is when you work with us, you get all of our back office systems, where a lot of guys
Absolutely.
that are recruited in the sales world or in the insurance world per se, in America, they're just thrown to the wolves. They got to go out there and try to figure it out. But here, we want you to be the president of your own company, okay? So here, you can be the president of your own company, but at Empower Financial Group, we will provide the back office support, a lot of the data processing that has to happen to enter applications in, the claims processing. The number one thing in this business is that people want to see is, and I've gotten a lot of agents because of this, because they know that if one of their clients has a claim, they don't got to go after they get done selling it day or while they're working and try to figure out how to file a claim. All they got to do is call Lydia in our office, and she's going to take care of that claim for us. So that's another that ties to recruiting, because we're providing all that back office support for them.
Yeah, definitely say it's a big deal to, be helpful and, walk people through things and just give them the resources to succeed.
Yeah. Now, again, we're two dudes and a hillbilly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an evolution, right?
Yeah.
Can we do better at what we do? 100%. Do I fail every day? Do I have this perfect back office system? No. You don't know why? Because I don't even know how to work Dropbox or Google Docs on here, who I got two other dudes want me to use right now, and I said, okay, but I guess got to learn how to do this stuff. I'd rather scribble stuff on a piece of paper and send 15 emails, which I hate sending emails too.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, can there be improvements? Are we great? No, but we're real.
Yeah. Yeah, I know with emails, it's funny. We were trying to figure out how to encrypt an email, and we couldn't figure it out a minute ago. But you mentioned this meeting in Atlanta. What are the dates for that?
Dates, July. I'll have to get the exact dates on that.
Mm-hmm.
Dadgum. It's going to be at the Embassy Suites in July, let me tell you that.
So,
Okay?
Is there going to be resources for people, looking to, try and get in the industry there?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Now that I think about it, it's July 18th and 19th at the Embassy Suites in Atlanta. Yeah, it's going to be an all-agent meeting. Going to be recruiting. What we've put out is we want a lot of our current agents to bring additional people that they would want to work with, that they would want to go travel on some of these trips that we put out, incentive trips and stuff, to come learn here and see what we do. Even partners, other business broker or insurance brokers, other payroll companies, etc., to come see and learn to do exactly what we do.
Absolutely. And would someone, if they were, looking to go to that, would they need to RSVP?
Yeah, we could. We got contact information. They would email bsmith@empowerfinancialgrp.net.
Absolutely.
That way we could get them, because we got a block of rooms set aside for that, and some other things that would need to be taken care of for that meeting.
Absolutely. So how can people get in contact with you if they're not able to go to Atlanta and learn? How could they get in contact with you and learn more?
Oh, a couple things. You can call the office, 573-300-5947, or text or call my cell phone, 573-429-2603.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you, Brad. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you setting out the time to do this interview.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.